Quick disclaimer for this video. I made this video yesterday before I saw Mr. Medicare's new video about the tails in the trout, which largely focused around the Kilroy drama. So I felt the need to clarify that this video of mine is not actually about Andy Worski, though I can see why people would think that it is because it refers to a video that Mike made, which was using Andy Worski. But I was referring to the greater point that they made. I did use a screenshot of Andy Worski, and it's true, he does talk about drama a lot, but I don't want to imply that Andy Worski is unreasonable for being concerned about the Kilroy convention, because I can see where his concerns are totally valid. He was invited to speak there, and he has the right to be skeptical about that. Though, there are some other things that maybe Andy might be a little bit preoccupied with. But overall, this video is just not about Andy. It's about not everybody, but a lot of people. A lot of people. Dozens of people. Just keep that in mind. Roll video. Were the SJWs right about the anti-SJWs? Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and with all of this drama floating around, I couldn't help but ask myself a very simple question. Remember that video that came out about 6 or 7 months ago on .Mike, where they made fun of anti-SJW type personalities for never having original ideas? Did they have a tiny bit of a point? They made a video mocking people like Andy and Chris Worski, Tommy Loren, and Milo Yiannopoulos. The premise was that they were in an alternate reality where social justice propaganda like .Mike and MTV's Decoded magically vanished, and they had nothing to talk about. And I'm looking at this infighting with the skeptic sphere and some of the people who are getting involved and continuing to milk it, and I'm wondering how much of this has to do with boredom and the fact that we no longer have a common enemy. Obviously, according to Mike, this ended up totally bumming out their fictitious version of people like Andy, Tommy, and Milo when the SJWs vanished. Because presumably, if SJWs vanished and stopped making videos, these people would be completely without careers, as they would have nothing to talk about. Obviously, that was a fictitious exaggeration in all three cases. I personally thought the video was super irritating at the time because for me, of course, I never run out of original ideas to talk about. And, even if you've had me in a stream, I talk a lot, right? And I write my videos purely originally scripted pretty much every day, have never really done response videos at all, and don't talk strictly about individuals in my videos very much. And I've had crap to talk about. I would have crap to talk about even if SJWs never became a thing, because I've been writing constantly for over 20 years. Still, usually in my videos, I draw from a back catalog of personal experiences gathered over the course of 30 years with SJW types of people, and I can almost always offer at least one personal story that relates to a specific topic if I try to come up with one. That's why I started my channel. I had something to say, because I was annoyed by SJWs in my actual life, as they conquered basically every part of my entire social reality. Even though the vast majority of people in the social spheres that they have conquered are starting to admit that they are miserable living under SJW law, even still, people still won't stand up against SJW law itself. And that bugs me. That's why I started my channel. That being said, I still have something to say about several things. I don't have to manufacture material, and if I run out of things to complain about, I'll start writing more fictitious scripts and getting my friends to act in them more often, if for no other reason than the fact that I would like to make content that has no possibility of inspiring any infighting drama on YouTube within people that I largely like. But seriously, as for some of the people in the skeptic sphere, or really the post-anti-SJW sphere, which is what this really is, let's be honest, how much did you ever have, really, as an individual to contribute to this discussion. Be honest with yourself about what you were or have been doing. This is not directed at any individual. There's countless people that I could be talking about. Ask yourself, did you ever really personally know a bunch of SJWs? Did you maybe used to actually be an SJW? Are you LGBT or a racial minority and are often forced to be around these people sometimes, even though you've pretty much always hated their mentality? I'm not going to tell anybody what to talk about, and when there was plenty of stuff to talk about regarding the SJWs, it was totally fun talking to just about anybody who wanted to talk smack about them, and seemingly everybody was interested in talking to me because they knew that I had a lot of insider knowledge about the SJW mentality. That whole period was fun. We had a lot of fun streams together. But for me, I wasn't just finding an argument on the internet when I was talking about SJWs. I didn't have to go searching for it. The argument with the SJWs came to me in my own life for several years before I fought back. But it seems like that simply maybe isn't the case for a lot of you guys. I'll be perfectly honest, one of the biggest reasons I befriended Wizard of Cause and Jeff Holiday in the first place was because I could tell that they came from somewhat similar social backgrounds to me. Jeff and I both lived in the Pacific Northwest in far leftist areas, and Nick has a long history of doing leftist activism. All three of us had something to say about the far left, which is why all three of us can simply go on and on telling stories about stuff that a lot of people seem to find entertaining. I'm not saying this to put anybody else down, nor to say that anybody else specifically doesn't have stuff to talk about at all. I'm sure a lot of you guys have very good stories of your own. However, when we're going to talk about SJW stuff, or the left in general, when somebody like myself talks about this stuff, or somebody like Miss Misa or Blair White talks about it, we often tell personal stories about it, and I think that our personal stories resonate with the audience because it comes from a completely honest and organic place. I personally don't have to manufacture stuff to talk about, and won't for several years. I'm in my mid-30s, and I have plenty of writing to get out that I simply haven't had time for, or felt was more important than whatever I wanted to do at the time that I was doing it. I have a lot to write, and I'm going to continue to have a lot to write. Just by myself, I could be trapped in a cell and write a lot. But can all of you say that about yourselves? I don't want to make you feel guilty. But I do, if you're making YouTube content and going on here in streams all the time, I want you to think deeply about the purpose of what you are doing on YouTube. Can all of you say in full honesty that you are here making skeptic videos because you felt with your full conviction in the pit of your soul that SJW nonsense was destructive, that feminism was hateful, and that communism in the West would potentially be the greatest catastrophe in human history? I can honestly say that. That's why I started making videos. Or did you start making videos and getting in streams because you just saw a bunch of stupid nonsense on the internet and you decided that since you're funny and entertaining, according to you, then you might as well criticize it? I mean, it's fine if you do that. You're allowed to be a critic, and I am a critic too. But if all you are is a critic on YouTube, and you want an audience for that, well, maybe you should ask yourself a few more questions. 1, do I consistently criticize people because I genuinely believe there are flaws in their arguments? Or do I actively search for things to hopefully disagree with sometimes? 2, would I be so passionate about these criticisms if I didn't have a YouTube channel? 3, am I doing a lot of this just to get views? 4, am I willing to adapt my criticisms of individuals as the person potentially changes? if I criticize somebody and that person adapts their position or apologizes, am I willing to adapt my own position in turn? 5. Am I willing to give sincere apologies as a critic preemptively if I realize I have done something wrong before somebody else calls me on it? 6. Would I apologize if people called me out for doing something wrong? Would I apologize for something completely trivial and accidental that people were making a huge deal about if I realized it was a sincerely bad thing to do? If so, do I trust that I would be completely graceful in that public apology? 7. Do I ever gang up on people because it seems like a trendy thing to do? Like all the kids are ganging up on someone and I'm going to do it too? Even if I don't really have a problem with that person? Do I ever do that? What would I do if people did this to me publicly? 8. Am I spending a lot of time waiting for somebody semi-famous to slip up and do something that could be seen as a mistake, even if that person has always been nice to me, simply because I know that if I attack that person, I'll get a lot of views? I think that people should ask themselves these questions sooner than later. Because, to be perfectly honest, I think that if you engage in making response video content or being on these types of essentially drama streams, pretty much at some point, all of this is going to come up. It's not going to be that I'm just sat here asking you to ask yourself these questions, but rather, eventually, you're just sincerely going to be answering these questions as they actually come up in your life on YouTube, as you will be eventually confronted with them. If you sincerely think that you're ever going to be safe from the type of criticisms you throw at people, yet you still throw them, even within the crowd of people that you generally agree with, I think you are extremely naive and probably just haven't ever really had a lot of friends. Will people eventually criticize you unfairly for literally no reason because they are bored? Likely. That seems popular, at least right now. Will people side against you simply because they believed a few dishonest people? Undoubtedly, a few will, and you won't be able to stop that even if you're not a drama channel, even if you did nothing wrong. I have no problem simultaneously putting myself out there personally, getting criticism and telling my critics that they are full of BS, if that's what I think of them, and backing out of the conversation entirely eventually if somebody proves that they simply aren't deserving of any more time or energy. But it's hard. It is difficult. And are you ready for that? Are you prepared to be called a liar by strangers on public live streams when you really are telling the truth? Are you prepared for the truth to never be good enough and to have people mocking you for trying your best to be honest? Do you have any idea how you would handle the situation that people have been put in recently? No, I'm not talking about Jeff. It happened to several people besides Jeff Holiday. Do you know what it would be like? I'm pretty sure most of you simply don't. If you step up and start getting involved with these arguments, you might feel like you're on the winning side of some sort of drama or conflict while the drama is happening, and that everybody who doesn't join up with your little crew of angry piranhas is one of the people who is losing the conflict. But that's not what is actually happening. Nobody is keeping accurate score of YouTube drama. In this case, the only thing anybody is going to remember is that Kraut lost his mind. And you should remember, any friend group is always going to be temporary. That's why they came up with the term fair weather friend. So when you show yourself to be somebody who maybe doesn't treat their friends all that well, and you show people that apparently you don't really have a very good standard of decency that you value ahead of all individual conflicts, well, eventually, if you show people those things, eventually you're going to lose both most of your friends and most of your audience. You can reprimand me all you want for saying this, and if you have a problem with me saying it, you are also more than welcome to unsubscribe from my channel if you genuinely can't contemplate that I am sincere with this warning, because it could apply to dozens of people. This isn't my first rodeo. I was honestly fairly popular in high school and was DJing at raves starting in 1999, so I've gotten around socially for a long time. And I've seen more social scenes and friend groups collapse since then than a lot of people have individual friends. Honestly, individual friends are a lot more enduring than friend groups, but crappy friends are what makes both things collapse. So try to avoid being a crappy friend, because if you are a crappy friend, you'll lose both your fair weather friends and your real friends. It sounds obvious, but I think a lot of YouTubers simply haven't had fair weather friends before because they've never really been popular before. I don't know, just a guess. So how do you avoid being a crappy friend on YouTube? Well, to be perfectly honest, maybe take Mike's advice. I know, Mike is terrible, but as sad as it is to say, I think that maybe if you find something else to talk about for a moment besides other people and other people's ideas, maybe you might be happier. And maybe you should do that. Give it a try, if for no other reason than to never give those jokers the satisfaction of being right about you. I mean, they did kind of predict this, right? That's all.